Welcome back. The big story we are tracking at this hour continuously on NDTV, the great Indian exam mess. And well, parallel developments happening. Of course, the government has decided to sack the NTA chief, the National Testing Agency Director General. And amid all of this, the NEET PG examination has also been postponed. The government says that this is in the interests of the students and the candidates who are going to appear for this examination tomorrow, because various allegations of irregularities regarding the NEET UG examination have already surfaced. I'm being joined by Ashna Jain, who's a NEET UG aspirant, also Harshit Tripathi, UGC-NET aspirant. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining us on NDTV at this hour. Ashna, first to you. One of the demands that was being made by the students who were protesting on the ground was an overhaul of the NTA. The fact that you guys had come forward and said that, we don't trust the NTA chief, we don't trust the NTA anymore, which is why there needs to be an overhaul. Are you satisfied with what the government has decided to do to sack the NTA chief?
Yes, I am very much happy by this decision to sack the NTA chief. And today the Supreme Court has also passed a law regarding strict punishment for cheaters and those who leak paper. So it is also a very good move by the Supreme Court.
It was actually the government that notified that law, that anti-paper leak law that you're talking about. In fact, Harshit, let me get in a response from you also. How do you see this move? The UGC-NET exam that was cancelled, that also came as a huge shocker to all the students, the lakhs of students who were to appear for that examination. But the fact that the government has decided to do something that is unprecedented, its own top official has now been sacked by the government. Do you see this as a welcome move?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy that at least government is working and doing something in this regard. First of all, but the thing is that merely changing the NTA chief is not sufficient. He should have been booked, arrested, and given the third degree to take out the truth. Why the managing director of the agency was outsourced is allowed to flee and evade from the investigation, who is behind his escape. When the education minister will be sacked to ensure free and fair investigation, why not everyone involved is arrested swiftly, investigated, and bring out the truth? So it is a matter of lakhs of students. So I think this is the thing that should also be done by the government. But at least I am happy that government is doing something and it's taking first step. And in fact, the law is coming. So we are hopeful that something is going to happen in future for sure.
So it is a welcome move, as you say, but not enough. In fact, Ashna Jain, talk to us a little bit about, the past 2 weeks, because I have covered this story from the ground as well. Seeing students on the ground relentlessly demanding justice, running from pillar to post, demanding justice, demanding a fair examination. Talk to us about how these past 2 weeks have been, because this is perhaps the result of the kind of outrage and the kind of student protests that we have seen across the country.
These 2 weeks were very hard for me. It was a very stressful period. Means I could say that I was not this much stressed during the NEET exam. As much now I am stressed after the results. I expect that re-NEET should not happen for all the students, because it is very unfair to us. There was immense amount of pressure on us when we were undergoing the exam.
Okay, we seem to have lost that line with Ashna. We'll try and reconnect with her. But the point that she's... Okay, go ahead, Ashna. Yeah.
And now today, most of the students are not in the state to undergo that amount of pressure again. So I expect the Supreme Court should make justice. And if the Supreme Court gives the verdict in favor of re-NEET, so at least we should be given enough time, at least 1 month, to prepare for the re-exam.
Okay, and of course there are conflicting opinions about whether there should be a re-NEET or not, and all of that. Now the Supreme Court will hear that all those petitions together on the 8th of July, 2 days after the counselling process was supposed to begin. But Harshit, the fact of the matter is that the students' future, that continues to hang in the balance. The fact that you have lakhs of students who are still uncertain about what their future is going to be like, particularly the UGC-NET aspirants, because while the NEET issue, the investigation has begun. The Bihar police has also arrested a few people, and that probe is on. For the UGC-NET students, there's still no clarity. But do you think the government is moving at least in the right direction and looking at some sort of an overhaul of the testing agency? And does that sort of reassure you that the government is moving in the right direction?
Ma'am, I think partially say this thing that government is moving in a right direction, because this is the first step by the government. Let us wait for the further steps what government will be taking. First of all, I think the government should announce the date of the exam also, because date is also very important for a situation in which the student is very uncertain about its future, whether he know that the exam will be conducted, but when it will be conducted, whether it will be conducted in this month only or in the coming months, and which agency is going to conduct, and what will be the new rules and regulations for the examination. Will there be any fees charging, etc., and any other thing will be there. So we are waiting for that also, that there should be a notification from the side of Education Ministry that what will be the future in the sense of conducting the examination.
So a date should be announced, as soon as possible. And, as you said that, the future of the students should not be played with. But Ashna, if you look at what's happened with NEET PG, do you think it's a move that is justified, given the fact that the government says that the kind of irregularities and discrepancies that have surfaced, it's better to sort of take precautionary measures rather than conducting an examination and then cancelling it. So what has happened with the NEET PG examination, do you think it's a justified move on the part of the government?
Yes, of course, it's a good move. It's a justified move, because I think the government is now serious regarding conducting exams. They also cancelled UGC-NET just after the day when the exam was conducted, and now they postponed NEET PG. There must be some valid reason for it. There might be paper leak news or any other news for NEET PG also. So I think it's a very good move for PG students.
That's an important point you're making there, that, it's better to sort of take precautionary measures than to conduct an examination and that mammoth exercise and then cancel, the entire examination process and sort of conduct a re-examination. So that, it's something that you think is a welcome move. Harshit, as far as you're concerned, I asked the same question of Ashna as well. The fact that students took to the streets across the country, particularly, here in the national capital, students have relentlessly been on the ground demanding justice, and that perhaps has prompted the government to look at some sort of an overhaul of the testing agency. Do you see this as some sort of a win as a student community?
Yeah, exactly. This is the one of the reasons that government is taking actions in hurry now. Because students are uniting, they are protesting, and that is the need of an hour at this time.
Absolutely. Ashna and Harshit, thanks very much for joining us with your reactions there. We sincerely hope that there is some clarity, some certainty as far as, your futures are concerned. Your careers, of course, are at stake. But thanks very much for speaking to NDTV at this crucial hour. So, of course, there's a developing story, multiple angles to be looked at. You have the government sacking the NTA chief. You have the government postponing the NEET PG examination. Also important to clarify here that the NEET PG examination comes under the Ministry of Health and not the Ministry of Education, which is why the Ministry of Health has gone ahead and issued this statement saying that the government has taken note of the kind of irregularities that have surfaced as far as the NEET UG examination is concerned, and it's only in the best interest of the students that the government decides to postpone, perhaps, and not cancel the NEET PG examination. Remember, as we've been reporting, this examination was supposed to be held across 300 cities for over 2 lakh candidates. The NEET PG examination, one of the toughest competitive exams that was to be undertaken by MBBS graduates, in fact, the already doctors who are looking to go into super speciality, who were supposed to take this key examination tomorrow, and just hours ahead of this examination, the government has decided to postpone it, keeping in mind the paper leak and the various alleged irregularities and discrepancies that have come to light. Remember, as far as the NEET PG examination is concerned, the admit cards were given as well. The centers were allotted and that entire exercise was already done, and now the government has decided to postpone it. And of course, the other big developing story is what the government is doing vis-a-vis the National Testing Agency. The NTA Director General has been sacked. Developing story there, a lot of anger, a lot of outrage on the ground. This remains our top focus on NDTV for now. A short break. Welcome back. Our big focus on NDTV at this hour, the Great Indian Examination mess, and it's only spiraling now with the government now deciding to sack the National Testing Agency boss. In fact, he's been replaced. An interim arrangement has been made. This, of course, comes 2 days, perhaps less than 2 days ahead of the all-important Parliament session as well, and also the crucial Supreme Court hearing that happens on the 8th of July, 2 days after the counselling process for the NEET UG examination was supposed to be held. This amid also the government's move to postpone the NEET PG examination. Now, this is the NEET postgraduate examination that we're talking about. That has been postponed as well. This is a preemptive move by the government. As a precautionary measure, the government has decided to postpone or put on hold the NEET PG examination. Maria Shakil is now live with us. So, Maria, a lot of the students' reactions that we're getting in, they say that, this is a welcome move because they have been demanding an overhaul of the National Testing Agency. They said that they have no trust whatsoever in the testing body, and now, of course, they're at least reassured that the government is moving in the right direction of fixing accountability.
Yes, so the accountability is being fixed here. So the message that is coming certainly is that there were problems and the National Testing Agency requires the much needed overhaul. And more so, it requires, heads must roll right from the top. The sacking of the Director General of National Testing Agency is a message that is coming. I think it's also an acknowledgement that Subodh Kumar was incapable of handling the responsibilities which were given to him, which is very clear that he was not the right man for this job. Why was he given that position is for another day, perhaps, to discuss. But educationists have been demanding that this structure of NTA was not the right structure, that this NTA should have been little more about educationists and those who have been conducting exams at this scale, and they should have been, participant in it, in ensuring that when a body of this nature, an overarching umbrella body is created, that if it functions, then it will ensure that overall examination systems are fixed. Remember that purpose of NTA and the objective was very different with which it was framed. It was not what we are seeing at present. The flaws that have come out in the public domain, that multiple cancellations, multiple paper leak is something completely unacceptable. And NTA, the chinks in its armors were coming out in the public domain. And what has happened, hours within the High Committee was formed to look into the structural challenges and also the data security protocol. I think that's going to be the big takeaway, and understanding that was NTA not prepared for the new age challenges, that these papers could be leaked to a dark web and on a Telegram, and then the students would get access to it. Because of the scale and the sheer stakes that are involved here, the government going ahead and realizing that the only way that they can answer to the political opponents, because, the opposition was seeking answers, and rightly so. From Rahul Gandhi to other leaders in the opposition, they were demanding action from the government. They were demanding as to what the government has done. The government was under pressure. It was in, seeking that explanation from within as well. And hence this move, I think, if you look at it, sequence of events, not just NEET, but also NET, and then the exam which was, postponed yesterday, and now NEET PG exams being postponed. All this is showcasing that NTA as a body has failed, and that is the reason why the much needed reforms have to be brought in.
That's a very important point you're making there, Maria, that heads have to roll from the top, which is why the government has decided to sack the man right on the top, the Director General of the National Testing Agency, who of course had come out initially and spoken to the media as well. But the Education Minister has been clear, since the beginning, saying that he takes moral responsibility. In fact, Maria, if I can ask you exactly that, the suggestion seems to be that this has come right from the top, from the panel headed by no less than the Prime Minister. So the direction certainly from the top of the government also is that, accountability needs to be fixed right away, and that, whatever flaws there are as far as the NTA is concerned, they need to be fixed as well. And, which is why the government is leaving nothing to chance. Even all the examinations that were slated, they've been put on hold, like the NEET PG examination.
Yes, so I can see some students here, and I'm going to take those questions also to the students. Vedant, continue to be with us, because these students have been on multiple panels, holding discussions, seeking answers. Do you feel now that that you will have faith in this agency, that much needed reforms in the coming few days will ensure that you can have that faith that when you enter the examination hall, it will ensure much needed transparency? That's the question to the students. Please go ahead.
Go ahead, Ashna and Harshit. Maria wants to ask you if now that faith has been restored to an extent, at least, that when you walk into an examination hall, you'd feel that, your careers are in the right hands. Do you see this as a step in the right direction? Ashna, first to you, and then Harshit.
No, not to that extent. But now government is moving in right direction, I guess. It has at least taken first step towards it. So, as an agency, NTA I can't trust, but they have fired the directors, so to some extent we can trust it, but not to that extent that I can give retest and I can ensure myself that the paper is being conducted in a fair manner.
Harshit, your response?
If I talk about the decision taken by the NTA and the government right now, we are partially satisfied, not completely satisfied with this decision, because अभी तक इन लोगों ने खाली यही चीज बताया है कि हमने उनको रिमूव करा है एंड एक नया लॉ लेके आए हैं. तो अभी स्टूडेंट्स को बहुत ज्यादा, नेट के स्टूडेंट्स की अगर आप बात करेंगे तो दे आर वेरी अनसर्टेन अबाउट देयर फ्यूचर डेट्स एंड एग्जाम्स एंड ऑल, क्या होने वाला है आगे. एंड फर्स्ट स्टेप ले रही है गवर्नमेंट. एटलीस्ट वी आर हैप्पी, लिटिल हैप्पी अबाउट दिस स्टेप कि आगे जाकर के कुछ शायद अच्छा हो, और भी स्टेप्स हैं, और इन एक्शन गवर्नमेंट नजर आ रही है, बिकॉज स्टूडेंट्स यूनाइट हो रहे हैं, प्रोटेस्ट हो रहा है काफी ज्यादा. इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द वर्किंग ऑफ एनटीए, तो यहाँ पर स्टूडेंट्स का एक ये भी डाउट है, या एक क्वेश्चन ये भी है कि आप जो पुराने चीफ हैं उनको हटा रहे हैं, बट आई थिंक उन पर जो ट्रांसपेरेंसी है उन पर भी होनी चाहिए, कि उनकी भी अकाउंटेबिलिटी फिक्स होनी चाहिए कि क्या उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट कहाँ है, उन्होंने क्या करा है, या फिर उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्या थी, वो अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्यों नहीं निभा पाए इस चीज का, बिकॉज वो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में भी पार्ट थे. तो आई थिंक उनसे भी ये क्वेश्चनिंग करनी चाहिए, उनको भी इस चीज के लिए. केवल हटा देने से कुछ नहीं होगा, हटा देने से इस लाइक कि आप उनको उस चीज से, उस लूप से बाहर कर रहे हैं. तो अब नए जो आएंगे उनकी तरफ अटेंशन शिफ्ट हो जाएगा, और पुराने पर कोई भी अकाउंटेबिलिटी की बात नहीं आएगी. तो आई थिंक उनको भी एक बार देखना चाहिए, उस चीज पर भी गवर्नमेंट को ध्यान देना चाहिए, एंड स्टूडेंट फीडबैक सिस्टम को लेते हुए आगे जाकर के एनटीए को इम्प्रूवमेंट्स करने चाहिए इस चीज. तो वी आर हैप्पी कि देयर आर सम स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस, but we are hoping for some more changes also.
Harshit and Ashna, thanks very much for joining us with your reactions there. Certainly some sort of a win for the student community which has been out on the streets. In fact, it's you guys that have really prompted the government to take such an unprecedented step. Thanks very much for that. Maria, what the students said also extremely important, that while some sort of reassurance, there's still a long way to go. And what is the indication from your sources within the government? This seems to be like just the beginning.
Yes, that's right. In fact, I was told by a senior government functionary that expect more orders, expect more decisions. So certainly they are realizing that the anger of the student community has made the government act. I would say that, it is these students who were persistent, who were constantly raising concerns, who were constantly talking about how the government was failing them, how the body or the NTA has failed to, address their concerns, address the important issues that they were raising. And hence, I think they have gone ahead and taken that action. But yes, overall, Vedant, I would say that this is the way forward in terms of how this is the only way the government could have saved itself or ensured that the student community would have faith in this body, because of this body which conducts 15 examinations. It's for teachers, it's for postgraduates, it's for medical entrance examination, and the stakes of students, the lives of students are at stake here. That's the reason why the student community, when they took that issue to the Supreme Court, they were very, very disappointed. They are in dilemma even today. They don't know whether it will be only the retest of those 1,563 students, or whether there would be a retest of all 24 lakh, as it had happened in the past, because earlier there was no acceptance that there was paper leak, but now the paper leak confession statements are in the public domain. The FIRs have been filed that there was an incident of paper leak in Bihar and also in Gujarat. So the government had much to explain. But now, over the last 48 hours, we are seeing a very, very proactive government, which is now going all out to do course correction, which is also going all out to ensure that the student community has faith in their decision making, and hence series of decisions which have been taken in the last 24 hours.
Absolutely, Maria. And as you pointed out, the government has certainly been extremely proactive in the past 48 hours. An expert panel was also formed, and just hours after that, the NTA DG has been removed. Maria continues to be with us. Continue to be with us because you've broken this very important story here on NDTV. Vasudha Venugopal is also live with us. So, Vasudha, looking at the NEET PG examination as well, because there is a lot of interest around that as well, given the fact that this announcement to postpone that examination has come just hours ahead of that examination. It was supposed to be held across 300 cities, across hundreds of centers. Lakhs of students were supposed to appear for this examination, but the government clearly leaving nothing to chance this time, given the fact that so many alleged irregularities have now come to light.
Absolutely, Vedant, and I think this appears to be a crackdown on all wrongdoers. And like Maria was also saying, that we have seen a lot of proactiveness from the government, but that apart, of course, this is also going to lead to a lot of disappointment among students. We've heard voices from the ground saying that when the UGC-NET examination got postponed, these are students in their late 20s, early 30s who are hoping to not be dependent on their families forever, who are hoping to strike out on their own. And NEET PG examination is considered amongst the toughest examinations in India, because it also decides admissions to various specializations of medical seats. So clearly there are very limited seats, and there's there's a lot of competition for these seats, and it's also about the best kind of doctors that we get. So clearly this is considered amongst the toughest examinations in India, apart from JEE. So that examination was supposed to be held tomorrow on the 23rd, on the same day as the retest of NEET UG examination that fell into a lot of controversy. And we saw leaders such as Shashi Tharoor asking for this NEET PG examination to be postponed for a very different reason called the heat wave. But clearly this was sort of unexpected. But at the same time, it is in line with what is happening. We saw the postponement of the UGC-NET examination. We saw the postponement of CSIR-NET examination, which of course ministry officials have said has nothing to do with any speculations of leak, and it has more to do with logistics. And now, of course, the NEET PG examination, which was supposed to be taken by 228,000 students across 276 centers in the country. So clearly it is an online format where students reach different centers and take this examination. There's a lot of speculation, and of course the counselling process also takes place. Of course, ministry has said that a thorough assessment will be done. This is under Health Ministry. It is not by NTA, but this is done by National Board of Medical Examinations. So clearly, it's not just NTA under question, but whole exam, the processes that go into competitive examinations that are being looked into. Ministry, of course, has said that a later date will be announced, intimated as soon as possible at the earliest. And of course, ministry, while apologizing for the inconvenience as such that this is in interest of the student. So clearly we'll have to wait and watch as to what happens. But somehow there seems to be a feeling that there is some proactiveness with respect to cracking down on what is happening with exam networks across the country.
Vasudha, thanks very much for joining us with that. Of course, a lot is at stake, as Vasudha is pointing out. These are doctors extremely overworked, and the kind of syllabus that they have to sort of go through, the kind of curriculum that they have is really sort of vast beyond belief, as I've said earlier as well. But Maria, the probe as far as the irregularities, the alleged irregularities is concerned, that probe is happening on multiple levels. You have the Bihar Economic Offences Wing probing the paper leak as well. So it's clearly the entire examination system that is now under scanner. Is the government receiving inputs constantly from multiple levels as we investigate what went wrong with these key exams?
Yes, that's right. And if you remember, Vedant, when the NET exam was cancelled, they said that the inputs were received from the Ministry of Home Affairs.
Yes.
That these papers were there on the dark web, the dark net. So the government, of course, is receiving inputs from several state police as well. With regards to NEET, it is coming from Bihar police, which has been asking for the NTA for papers, the question papers, so that they can match the papers which were received by them, which they found during raids, which of course are burnt papers, but they say that they can match it forensically. But the NTA was not responding. The NTA, in all those steps, every time the Bihar police asked for details from NTA, they have gone on to say that there's no evidence to suggest that there is paper leak. Because in the Supreme Court, they were giving a different picture altogether. That in the Supreme Court, they were talking essentially about grace marks. That in the Supreme Court, they were essentially talking about the moment the first day of hearing was held of those petitions which were filed by the students seeking transparency and questioning the arbitrary manner in which the grace marks were given, the NTA said, I would order a retest for 1,563 students. These are students coming from 4 states, which are states of Punjab, Delhi, Chhattisgarh, and Haryana. But there were reports. In fact, there were several educationists who were of the opinion that not just students, which are these 1,563 students who are expected to take retest, there were several of them who had received retest emails and they do not belong to these states. So the student community was raising questions about the manner in which the NTA had functioned and that they were not presenting the real picture. That how did this paper get leaked? On what basis? First they did not really accept that there was a paper leak at all. So did the ministry. They were constantly saying that there's no evidence of paper leak. But now that evidence is in the public domain. There is evidence that there has been paper leak with regards to NEET, which has been investigated, which is an ongoing investigation in Bihar and also in Gujarat. So with these kind of details coming out in the public domain, and I think it was almost becoming impossible for the government to defend this national testing agency and its constant failures, not one but multiple ones. Paper leaks, cancellations, postponements. Why were they happening? Because there were logistical challenges which had not been foreseen by them. There were challenges related to data security and protocol which they had not foreseen. So if the agency was failing at multiple levels, what could have been done except for rolling the head, except for ensuring that there is visible action. And the only visible action was sacking of NTA boss, which has happened.
Maria and Vasudha, thanks very much for joining us with that. Of course, as Maria is pointing out, the NTA failed on multiple levels spectacularly. At this, of course, sort of a visible action being taken by the government in a sense, in a bid to reassure students who've been on the streets demanding justice, demanding a fair examination. And of course, multiple parallel developments happening now with, of course, also the postponement of the NEET PG examination. This remains our top focus on NDTV. For now, short break.